On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. They seem to be all in on Poopy Pants, and they're somewhat united in their song. I say somewhat because ultimately we know one thing. One, any Democrats or deep state's funding is tied to supporting him. And we also know that anybody that steps outside of that, at least this is the theory going around, is that they will be blamed for why he fails to win the election when that time comes. Again, we'll see. I have a lot going on. And actually, I don't want to say breaking news per se, but kind of. Before we get to that, I am going to say the music show I will be doing Friday, live at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Do it every week. Is going to be The Doors this week. I've got some great music pulled already. I've got to do my thing with it. But all that said, some really, really good songs. It is going to run more than an hour. Hope you're a Doors fan. And then there is a small possibility I'll start a few minutes early because I'll have too much, and I don't want to bang right up against my good friend Alpha when we do our show Synchronicity. So all these things said, we'll be doing that coming up on Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And please be a part. It's a lot of fun. A lot of great people are there. Now, to remind everybody to start with, to get us on the right foot, if you will, remember to be the light. Now, what this says, and this is a great reminder, good people are out there, that's for sure. Lots more good than bad, as a matter of fact. Mostly, people are confused and scared. Confused and scared people act irrationally and out of emotion. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It means they need a lighthouse. Be their lighthouse. And I love this because this has been my message. First off, I've called myself a porch light on so many occasions and referred to you guys as well. But the ripple makers and being able to help people in this time. This is the calling of many of us. So this is the time to be prepared, be ready, be opened to the possibilities that are going to be in front of us, because this is how we're going to get through all these things. 5 Stoic quotes from Marcus Aurelius, whatever his name is, Marcus Aurelius, right? You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Also, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. The soul becomes dyed with the colors of its thoughts. And finally, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. And I've frequently said that as well. Be the example for others to see. And which kind of works also if you want to be like Donald Trump, then you can kind of be like Sandman, or at least Mr. Sandman, or whatever. I don't think I've done a Metallica yet, actually. That reminds me, I should probably put them on my list. Very curious if I've ever done Metallica. I don't believe I have, and they're not on my list. Well, let's add Metallica really fast while I'm thinking about it, because it's not going to happen otherwise. That's sometimes you just got to do it. Fix it while you're there, you know? Can't type, that's for sure. All said. All right, there we go. Being the Sandman, being in the moment, and being prepared, good Lord, being prepared for what we are going through in life, and just, again, taking each moment as it comes. This is kind of funny. Dan Scavino posted this as well. When you mention Trump to a Democrat, they get a little crazy on you sometimes. It's kind of funny. Like there was a girl I was with my girlfriend, and I knew she was totally crazy lefty, and she was asking me a lot of questions, trying to like figure me out. And I just kept kind of dodging her, weaving, and then finally I gave it to her intentionally. And then I saw the little switch in her eyes change. It was funny as hell. Anywho, this is them. Yeah, pretty much, right? A little crazy, like rabid dogs. Now, what's also not to be left out is, again, Dan Scavino's been doing a lot of dog comms lately. I don't think he's directly involved with the things that are doggies or dogalicious, but I think he's calling them out in a way that's like, we know what's coming. We know you guys are screwed. We know they're going to sacrifice likely Joe, but probably others. There's a lot of dogs in this particular post. So something interesting is definitely being communicated. We don't know exactly what it is. one thing we are kind of sure about is the craziness of the economy and the expectations that we're going to get a pretty severe bump in the night. The bubble is extra big. They've been pumping money into it for an extra long time, much longer than normal bubbles, which they say is around 6.5 plus years. We're like 12, 13, 14 into this one. Ridiculous amount of time. So these things considered, I would highly recommend getting out of their stock. If you're not able to manage it personally, that's a big key, right? Like during collapse, this is always a great time to make money, by the way. Always a great time to make money. I don't ever want anybody to think that's not the case. But most of us that have 401ks or IRAs, which is really a lot of what this is, if you're in one of those systems, you're not managing your money, are you? No. Now you can do some check boxes. You can be like, I want it more than this. Right, and that's fully awesome. But as we talked about in yesterday's news, the S&P, 150 of the companies in the S&P, there's 500 of them. The 150 of them are all heavy ESG, and BlackRock is supposed to favor them, but they kind of can't ignore the other 350. But they kind of do. Those are the ones we want to invest in, don't we? Right. Or you'll get into the tech stocks, which is some of the problems that we're having in the big picture, the ones that are actually censoring us, right? And so why are we helping them? Why are you letting them use your hard-earned wealth to help deep state companies, and then you know something's going to happen at some point because they've been lying about earnings reports forever or whatever, and the walls are going to come tumbling down a little bit? Do you want to be in that system when it happens? No. The dollar's not getting any stronger. Inflation's taking a chomp out of that every single day. So that dollar mark that it's set at, I've got 5,000, I got 50,000, I got $100,000 in my 401k. Yeah, that dollar mark every day is getting chomped out of. But it's up 5% from last year. Yes, but inflation's eaten away all of that plus some. And that's why it feels like you're not moving ahead, because you're not. Gold's actually moved up in purchasing power since things have been going down. I mean, like for the last little couple of years, 10 years, 15 years. Gold's up 45% in purchasing power, not just value or dollars, purchasing power, which means it's up even more. What you could buy with gold an ounce 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you can actually buy a little bit more now by 45%. Significant earnings. Not happening with homes, not happening with real estate, not happening with cash and treasuries. It's just the way to go. If you've got a 401k and IRA, get out of their system. Do it tax-free, penalty-free. Go to drslikesgold.com. drslikesgold.com. Get out of that system. If you've got some cash lying around, again, you're losing value daily. You need to hang on to some of it, obviously. But if you've got some extra, or you're maybe sitting in some sort of high interest thing, maybe you might want to consider actually getting some precious metals. If you do that, you could qualify up to $8,000 of free silver, which is heavily undervalued right now. Go to drslikesgold.com. drslikesgold.com. Take that wealth with us to this new system. Gold does that. Silver does that. And these IRAs that you can set up with the precious metals, it's physical metals that are actually just in a trust. They're in a physical location. If you wanted to get them or have some of them dispersed to you, you could, but that's where income and penalties and stuff like that starts to happen. You put it in a trust, you keep it away. It's the same thing as a regular 401k. That's why it's tax-free and penalty-free. Find out all the information. 4 data points is all you need to give. Go to drslikesgold.com. drslikesgold.com. Get out of their system before they get out of you. And they are desperately trying to do that, and they want to. Now, here's the breaking news that I didn't hide it. I didn't bury the lead, as they say. But what's going on? This is Fox News kind of talking about it, but they were supposed, let them say it.
The podium. The press secretary has not started yet. The last update that we got from the White House was that it was postponed from the original 1 o'clock scheduled time to 1:45. Now another half an hour has passed, so you can only imagine what's being discussed behind closed doors, John.
What could they be up to?
All right.
I'm reasonably sure it's like a solid game of Rochambeau. Fuck. You got scissors again. All right, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 7, or whatever, right? Like, just keep adding to it because they're subtracting from their own existence right now. It's horrible. Kenneth P. Vogel put this out, posted. Biden told donors on a private call this afternoon, it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. I mean, that's not quite how you would say it if you were trying to assassinate somebody, usually would say a scope or something, but Biden is sort of retarded, so some are wondering if he's going in that direction. That would be pretty dark. Or he's just saying you guys got to go after Trump and target Trump. I don't know how much worse Trump derangement syndrome can be. It's already like simplex 10 with most people. How much worse can it get? These pustules are pretty gnarly. When you meet somebody, you're like, oh, you've got TDS. How do you know? I just got this giant thing coming out of you right now that's like, it's kind of... I watched that Pimple Popper show one time. My God, that was a mistake. Oh, you can't take that back. That was disgusting, and it was in a weird, like, I wanted to watch it, too, and I kept watching it. I'm disgusted. All right. Probably be like midget porn. I'd probably watch it because I'd be curious as hell. Anyway, that's a different story for a different day. Senior White House advisor for more than a year have aggressively managed President Biden's schedule, his movements, and his personal interactions as they sought to minimize signs of how age has taken a toll on the oldest president in history. And this was put out by the Wall Street Journal, mind you. They continue. The White House has limited Biden's daily itinerary and shielded him from impromptu exchanges. Advisors have restricted news conferences and media appearances, twice declining Super Bowl halftime interviews, an easy way to reach millions of viewers, and sought to make sure meetings with donors struck to scripted pleasantries. Senior aides dismissed travel suggestions over worries the president didn't have the stamina for them, including an idea for Biden to make weekly cross-country trips in 2022 to tout the benefits of his infrastructure law. All of this unfolded as Biden's slips became increasingly obvious, and his top advisors were assuring everyone the president was fine. People close to Biden blame a handful of advisors for putting in place a strategy that minimized the president's age-related struggles. Those advisors, including the president's big-picture thinkers, Anita Dunn, who is responsible for the White House communication strategy and echoes the president's disdain for the news media, along with Steve Ricchetti and Mike Donilon, decades-long political counselors. They have known he's ill, and they've kept it from us, and they've continued to keep it from us. Now, interestingly, even when he traveled overseas back in June of 2022, German officials were aware of Biden's fatigue at night, sought to accommodate the president by planning a June 2022 event with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in the early evening. The informal event, a soiree of Alpine Resorts Schloss Elmau during the Group of Seven summit, was arranged as a confidential meeting on Ukraine in relaxed settings. Biden didn't show, surprising the chancellor and his aides, officials say. Instead, Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived and announced that Biden had to go to bed, according to two people who were there. Again, always anonymous sources, but still. Now here's some more fun with Karine Jean-Pierre, and I think possibly the hardest job on this planet. And you've just got to almost love the fact that they can literally say this straight to our face.
But there have been a number of people who have said, listen, why don't you have a cognitive test just to rule out that there are any issues? Would the president, would you counsel him to do that just to sort of put an end to these questions?
Andre, I hear you. The neurologists have said it is not warranted. The president himself, he said it today, he said it multiple times, and the doctor has said this. Everything that he does day in and day out as it relates to delivering for the American people is a cognitive test. And that is what the medical doctor has said. That is what the specialist has said.
It's the hardest friggin' job on the planet. I'm sorry. Karine, I don't know if you're nice or not in real life. Like, I'd be curious to find out. I mean, probably not, but whatever. But your job is so damn hard. So hard. I would never, ever in a million years want to do it. Here's Jake Tapper talking about the debate, and Dr. Sanjay Gupta has some thoughts even. Again, where he's losing is interesting places right now. Fox kind of talks about it, of course, right? And then CNN's been breaking ranks. I would say ABC, NBC, all of them, especially MSNBC, they've been out of their minds making sure they support Biden. So MSNBC, 100% deep state, 100% deep state. Fox News and CNN, it seems, are very deep state influenced heavily, but yet realize they've got people that they have to get to watch them. The other places don't care. They're deep state all the way. They're going to go down, crash and burn if they have to. They'll make up numbers. It doesn't matter. But CNN's been doing some very interesting stuff. Again, they have hours of crap programming too, and so does Fox for that matter, but they do put out a lot of gems, and we, of course, get to enjoy those. But here's one of them.
What was your reaction to the debate? What did you think as a doctor?
Well, there was concern, I think, from the go, frankly. First question you asked, I think right away when I watched if it were my dad, there was cause for concern. Stumbling of speech, sort of confused rambling at times, and then also motor symptoms, lack of expression in the face. None of those things are diagnostic of anything. I just want to be clear about that. But in aggregate, they are flags. And I think anybody, and unanimously from the medical professionals I've heard, they would advocate for testing based on what they saw at that debate.
Yeah, testing. 1, 2, testing. Semblance. Yeah. Okay. Right? Karine Jean-Pierre, she actually went off the rails a little bit on this. I would not dare put you through the 353 of it. But essentially someone says, hey, we've seen the visitor logs, and it shows that this parking specialist has been there a bunch of times. What's up? And she's like, I'm not going to talk about that from here, from this pulpit. I'm not going to talk about that and stuff. I think that's some of it. I don't know. She didn't snap. I added that just to give it some flavor. But still, I Hollywood things up sometimes. Come on. Karine Jean-Pierre knows she lies about this because she even says at the final end, goes, oh, well, even what the log say, I don't care. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to confirm, deny, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say whose name's whose. Okay. I feel so much safer about the honesty that we get. It's my favorite thing, too, about all the Democrats talk about how Trump lies. Trump's lie. He's a liar. These guys lie constantly. I don't get it. It is impressive to me. Like, being awake sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, welcome. I'm glad you're there with me. Been a big bundle of joy. Ah, love it. Miranda Devine put this out. How many times do neurology specialists make VIP house calls to the White House for thousands of military personnel? That's a big question, right? Well, I was there. I saw Biden. I was like, hey, Biden, fist bump, and then, but no, I was there to help out the thousands of military personnel at the White House. Now, thousands, first off, this guy shouldn't be giving out information. Second off, I was going to look it up. I'm like, how many people actually are at the White House? I'm like, they're not going to tell me how many Marines and crap are there. But then I'm like, I've never been there before, so it's a reasonably large home, to my understanding. I don't know how many troops you could fit in there. I know they got many, many levels that we're unaware of and stuff, but thousands of troops? Military personnel. I mean, I guess some of the ones working there maybe. I don't know. Just interesting. But whatever the case was, that's what they're claiming. All right, let me throw this at you. Maybe this will help sway you to understand that possibly Biden has a problem, quite possibly even Parkinson's specifically. Here is Dr. Tom Pitts. He is one of the Parkinson's experts in the world. And, many would say you can't, diagnose somebody over the TV. You can't do that. And in most cases, you'd be 100% right. But there are, like he says, telltale things that, he's got a whole slew of patients, and he's like, this is, telltale. This is exactly how they behave. And this isn't helping the Dems at all.
You noticed anything that gives you a red flag as a doctor?
Oh, yeah, I see him 20 times a day in clinic. I mean, it's ironic because he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemino dysfunction, actual word retrieval, where you pick a similar question or talk around the issue, plus the rigidity, monotone voice.
Wait, go back to that, the rigidity. What do you mean?
Rigidity, loss of arm swing, standing up lordotically. You notice when he turns, it's kind of end block turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinsonism is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement. And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice that said was a cold hypophonia. A small monotone voice like this over time is a hallmark of Parkinsonism. I could have diagnosed him from across the mall.
Here are some of the symptoms from Parkinson's. We just had him up there on the screen. If we can put him back. What about the movement? Some people have pointed out the way he walks. Sometimes it's not very fast, small steps. Is that something that is common in people who are battling a disease like Parkinson's?
Yeah, it's a hallmark. Shuffling gait, we call that, so little steps. Loss of arm swing from the rigidity. When we walk, we have a nice cadence. You notice he doesn't really swing his arms. And end block turning, meaning he kind of pivots around his foot. If you said, hey, President Biden, he wouldn't go like this. So, yeah.
But I also know, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it's very hard to diagnose Parkinson's, isn't it? It's not simple. I mean, I've heard that it can be.
It's one of the easier movement disorders to diagnose, actually.
Right,
but it's so clinic. There's very little other. And I'm a Democrat. I always say
yeah,
about this.
Right.
It's just like this guy is not a hard case.
But I've had relatives who have gone through neurological issues, and I've heard that sometimes Parkinson's is not very easy to nail. You have to take a lot of tests.
It's early on. If you're just presented with like hallucinations, that could be a variety of things, or just the cognitive problems. That could be Alzheimer's versus Parkinsonism, and that becomes a little nebulous. But once you start manifesting the hallmark motor symptoms,
right?
Slow movement, rigidity, mass facies, hypophonia. I mean, if a med student did not pick Parkinson's on the test, they'd be remediated.
So let me ask you, you're a Democrat, you're a doctor. You sound like you're frustrated with what the White House is saying.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because, I'm an American before everything. And I look at it and say, when I used to see Russia, Soviet Union, North Korea, when they just make outrageous things, like when North Korea can't keep the lights on and they say, oh, it was some faulty power thing. I kind of hate that kind of stuff. They had 4 years, my own party had 4 years to find, this was a wreck in slow motion. And they had 4 years to find, out of 350 Americans, one person that could take the place. And here we are the day before school trying to do the homework and replace a guy who's got a neurodegenerative disease.
Dr. Pitt.
That is how so many people feel. So many people. They're very confused. They don't understand why they're still being lied to. This is the awakening. This is one of the key parts, right? 9/11 was for many people out there. This is going to be a huge one for now. COVID was a pretty damn big one. We've had so many of them, but they've gotten more extreme. Why? Because we have to know that something's wrong, or something's changing at least, and finally go, wow, what? And then we got him. We're good. I mean, we got him. That sounds kind of bad, but they'll talk. We'll work through this. We'll give them the opportunity to start to run their own lives instead of the other choices. This is falling apart for the deep state in just enormous ways. Here's House Armed Services Ranking Member. I don't need to play this. Adam Smith. He's a Democrat from Washington. He's calling on Biden to withdraw. He's saying, I want him to step down. No. Here's Democrat Mike Quigley. Now, we've heard a lot of stories. They had they grabbed the caucus, Democrat caucus. They had a call this morning. It was probably something to do with how they're going to deal with, I'm guaranteed Nancy Pelosi was in charge, but I doubt it was Hakeem Jeffries. Maybe he was speaking with her hand shoved up his ass. But Rep. Mike Quigley was one of the only people that came out and actually spoke to the press because they were all told not to. What also did we notice from this? They came out in kind of a parade of very somber, not happy, like something didn't happen inside there that worked well. But again, they're going to stay together on this for the most part. Democrat Rep. Mike Quigley, he said, we just have to step down. He can't win any of my colleagues. I guess I'll play this. Let's go for it.
The fighting spirit and pride and courage that served the country so well 4 years ago, helped Joe Biden win, will bring the ticket down this time. He just has to step down because he can't win. And my colleagues need to recognize that a dismissive letter is not going to change any minds.
Now, this is going to be an important time for all of us. Again, I've always said, and I'll always say, and I'll keep saying, watch actions. Actions are what matter. What people do is what matters. Fetterman, although I don't agree with a lot of the crap he says, he keeps being a thorn in their side. I love it. Manchin saved our asses on 5 different occasions or more around there. Total Democrats voted this way all this time, every time back in the past. Yeah, I got you. Here's what he did when it mattered, when they were literally trying to push us off the edge. And Manchin was the only Democrat that freaking cared about this country more than his stupid party. So what we're going to see now is who's who. Who's who. This is going to be key to this part of this movie. You're going to see who's There are some good Democrats out there. Just because they've been wearing a D on their shirt doesn't mean that they're bad. It means that they're in a shit party, but so are the Republicans. We just kind of stole it from them. Kind of. And that's why they say we're ruining democracy. Because from their standpoint, we are. I've actually got a section up here where it's called ruining democracy, because that is what we are doing. Democracy is rule by force, by mob. We're a constitutional republic. They wanted to change that to democracy. That's how we are ruining it. Not because it is there. It's because they're trying to get it there. And we're not letting them. Because we are a constitutional republic. We have inalienable rights. That is what a republic is. Guaranteed rights to those that can't be voted even by the majority. It takes a supermajority to be able to amend the agreement between us and the government. And that's extraordinarily hard to get. Even with your democracy idea of 51%, not enough. You need 66%, 2/3, I believe, to amend. And a bunch of the states have to sign on to it. That's hard as hell to do. It's been done a bunch of times, but that's hard as hell to do. Democrats are having a hard time. Van Joe's a perfect example. A lot of people waking up. This is a tough time for a bunch of people.
The numbers are not encouraging, and the party is no longer united. You already have 4 House Democrats who are saying step down. You're going to have more. You're going to have more. This week, unfortunately, you're going to have the split screen of the president having, NATO allies here and people in his own party looking at this math. As David Axelrod said, this time 4 years ago, Biden was up 10. He's down 6. We needed that debate to turn things around. It did turn things around in a negative direction. And so I think that he's going to have to look in his heart. This is a party that loves him. I've never heard so many people say about a politician, I love this man. Not just I respect him, not just I admire him, I love Joe Biden. He is beloved in this party, and yet he may not be able to get us across the finish line. And I think people are hoping that he will recognize we're running Kamala Harris for president right now. That's who we're running. Nobody believes Joe Biden's going to be president in 4 years. And so we're in the worst possible world because she can't defend herself. She has to defend him. We can't defend her. We have to defend him. If we're basically running Kamala Harris anyway, let's run Kamala Harris and let her get out there and defend herself and accept that's where we are. The reality is we are running Kamala Harris for president one way or the other. I'd rather run her for president in the strongest way rather than the weakest way.
Bakari?
And I wonder if that's the other angle that people are trying to go with this. They want Kamala because she's the first black woman president. Maybe. There's a lot of people talking that she doesn't have. If she's not actually a natural-born citizen, she's not going to be able to do that. Maybe they're hoping they could have gotten democracy to make that okay, but there's no way that gets passed through Congress or anything like that. So that ain't happening. That was also, Donald Trump was behind it, if you guys remember, questioning Obama's birth records. They didn't think his birth record, he was actually born in Kenya, is what they suggested. So he should have never been president, which is, again, fraud vitiates everything. If we unravel everything, it's going to be a tricky, tricky time. Rep. Chantel Brown literally says Biden, him needing to sleep and admitting that he's too old or whatever the hell, is actually admirable.
We know that when the president spoke to governors last week at the White House, he told them, Congresswoman, that he needs to sleep more and work less. If, Congresswoman, if a member of your staff said to you, you know what, Congresswoman Brown, I got to sleep more and work less, you'd fire them, wouldn't you? Or you'd start looking for their replacement, would you not?
Absolutely not. Listen, the fact that the president can admit his shortcomings, I think, is a blessing. I think it demonstrates his integrity. I think it demonstrates his authenticity. And I think it demonstrates how genuine he is when it comes to telling the truth.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want sleepy pants. Sleepy poopy pants? When they just make that grunting noise while they're sleeping, you're like, oh, that's not good. They're unloading right now. This is not going to work. Everyone's falling in line, sorry. Here's Nadler. I don't know if I want to play the whole thing. I just want to show his stupid face. Oh, the penguin. Oh, get Batman. Oh, whatever the hell. Oh, that's what he reminds me of. I'm sorry. Just that fat Danny DeVito penguin. I hope he had a costume on of some kind that made him look even more overweight. But, yeah. Anyways. Andrew Desiderio He says Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, a vulnerable Democrat incumbent, isn't even coming totally out. He's not necessarily going straight to the defense of Biden, but he's not coming out in admonition, if you will, of the Biden. So this is how many of the smart Democrats are going to play it. Be mindful of this. They're going to come out and say, dude, Biden needs to step down if they're actually America first. If they're not, this is the other approach they'll take. Well, I don't want to go on record saying I trust the man because I don't, but yeah, he's the guy they've chosen. That's kind of it. So again, pay attention. This might be one of the people in your area, your arena. You need to be mindful of them. There's like 3 examples of it. I've spent plenty of time. General Mike Flynn put this out just to, kind of poke him in the eye. Biden, that is, because it's fun. Hey, at Joe Biden, if you got 81 million votes in 2020, how come you only have 38.1 million followers on X? And your opponent, at Real Donald Trump, who supposedly got far less than you, has 87.2 million followers on X. Is Trump finally on there? No way. Probably nothing really, but thought I'd ask for some dead voters I once knew. Oh, that's right, his old account's still there. He just hasn't posted. So good on Mike Flynn, General Flynn, sir, for doing that. Because he's right. Like, seriously, Biden, you got 38.1 million, and that's even with bots. Now, I'm sure that number is going to somehow go up, and I think, if I know Mike Flynn at all, that's what he was trying to do. He's like, dude, you guys forgot about the X numbers. And they're like, fudge. So maybe that's the new thing. For every illegal immigrant that comes across the border that we give a phone to, it's already going to have a Twitter account set up for them. Be all these people like at 1AL175 it'll be some crazy at -5614662CA, or something crazy. That's how we're going to know what their Twitter handle is. That's how you know the government was behind it. You watch. They'll do something stupid like that. It'll be funny as hell. You watch. Actually, just kind of came to me while I was talking on the fly. Yeah. Here they're having a little bit of problems. Again, CNN with Biden. And they actually put this out. They're now airing humiliating clips of Joe Biden and the fact that they're lying. And it's Tapper, too, which maybe Tapper's going to be the one that gets kicked off CNN, or maybe he's going to be the Tucker. That's the Tapper of Tuckers, the Tucker Tapper, the Tapper Tucker Tapper. I don't know, but maybe he's like the Tucker of Tappers in the CNN world. And here he is. I don't know.
But before the president did that, he called into a couple of black radio stations where he said, among other things, this.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman, served with a black president. I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do because together there's nothing. Look, this is the United States of America.
He's proud to be the first black woman? Not coherent.
Not just that. Let's go back here. Hang on, let me see.
Served with
He said, by the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president. So he's the first vice president, the first black woman, apparently. And he's to serve with a black... I see. This is when he was vice president. Okay. I'll give him that. Tapper was better than I was. But still. They're waking up. Here's, of course, Fox News doing their version of it. And, of course, yes, Jesse Waters. Apparently no relation to Maxine. So he tells us. I don't know, Jesse. I don't know, buddy. You look like you could be similar, fam. Some kin going on there. Don't know.
This guy has the entire Democratic Party held hostage. He wakes up this morning, sends them a ransom letter, and says, you better stick with me and nobody gets hurt.
That's true.
And everyone's like, wait a second. If we stick with you, we all get hurt. and then he's blaming the elites. The elites is why he's in the White House to begin with. Joe Biden would be nowhere without the elites, without the CIA, the donors, the media. They put him in there. And they can take him out right now, and you can already see they're trying to take him out. He's like a puppet with no strings, thinks he can dance. All of a sudden, you find out the Parkinson doc lives at the White House. Oh, where'd that come from? He has note cards for everything. They tell him where to stand. They're probably going to find his fingerprints on the cocaine if he stays one more week. I'd be watching out for sandbags everywhere. I'd be worrying about the teleprompter breaking all of a sudden. Oops, sorry about that, Joe. They have so much dirt on this guy. They know everything about his dirty son. They're probably negotiating a golden parachute because let's be honest. There's no way Joe Biden's making money on the lecture circuit after this. There's no way Joe Biden's writing a book and selling it on cable TV.
Reverse mortgages.
Reverse mortgages is all he has. We're in deep trouble. I don't know. I think it's Biden-gate.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
It's
This
worse
is
than Watergate.
Biden-gate.
Yeah.
And worse than Watergate, and they're actually right about that. And that video I saw the other day, I know a lot of people have strong feelings about Nixon, but that's another one of those. I wasn't really alive when that whole thing happened, but how that played out, I mean, again, I was a guy that made fun of him for I was a crook, and then I actually met one of his security guards, or security force that he privately hired. I saw the photo of him and his team, but they're also there with him, like with the president, with Nixon. And so he was very adamant that Nixon was a great guy. And I was like, it's crazy. And again, it wasn't because I wasn't awake. It's just I didn't realize how much crap we'd been lied to about. And I don't think that's awakened so much as it is like when someone tells me something stupid. And I'm like, I'm not going to trust you. You're ridiculous. You're saying ridiculous things. Where are you coming from on that? Like, to me, it's like understanding that we've been lied to about everything. That's part of what happens when you wake up. You start to question things, and then you dig into something, and you're like, oh my God, they totally lied to us about that. And you're like, I wonder what else they've lied to, right? And then you start digging into other things, and you just go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And oftentimes it's exciting as hell, and you'll send it to people like me because, it's exciting to you right now. It's what you're doing. It's what you're into. I've probably been down that rabbit hole, or at least parts of it, or similar to it, or close to it. And yeah, gotcha. Yeah, totally. That's messed up, right? Imagine how many other crazy things are messed up. So a lot of people are starting to come to the information, right? Like they're starting to find rabbit holes. They're finding interesting things to take them down these places of, well, no reprieve, really. Once you go down those holes and you learn what you learn, you can't unlearn it. It's the fun part about it. Here's Hannity talking to Trump, kind of making a statement of value.
Do you, Mr. President, do you want Joe Biden to step aside? Do you care?
Well, we prepared for him, but I don't think it's going to matter. We had a great 4 years. Our border was the strongest ever. Our economy pre-COVID was incredible, the best ever.
And it was. His little, I don't think so, right? I don't think they'll, right, let him keep going. But Trump doesn't expect Biden to drop out of the race. He just doesn't expect that to happen. He knows everybody wants him to. That's probably part of the movie. It's going to become overwhelming, and because he refuses to get out of the way, because he refuses to allow that to happen, he's going to actually anger people, and it will turn them away from him even more. And as the Democrats unite further and further behind that, people will turn away from that as well, because they'll realize and they'll finally see they don't give a shit what we think. And they don't. That's what the Democrat Party's always been. They've been about self-service, serving their interests from day one. That's why they had slaves. They didn't give a shit about other people. I was taking care of my things. I paid money for them. Yeah, I bet you did, you bastard. Yeah, that kind of stuff happened. It is what it is. But we shouldn't continue to be slaves like we are. So this is someone that put up apparently Bernie Sanders is advising that Biden should start doing some stuff without teleprompters. You say you're so sharp, you say you got this all figured out, you got this dialed in there, big guy. Go ahead, let's disconnect that teleprompter and see where you go. Because you freeze live, real time. I've done it before. It hurts like hell. Not like him, but yeah, you go like 3, 4, 5 seconds. It's an eternity. Oh, it's awesome. It's just like, oh my God, I can hear my own heartbeat. Like, it's insane. This is what they're asking him to do. Demonstrate. Again, Bernie Sanders isn't on board. He's already been effed by these people when they put Hillary over him, even though he got the votes. So ruining democracy, that's what we're here to do, guys, because we're not a democracy. I know a lot of people think that's a really weird, scandalous thing to say. Are you against democracy? No, I'm not against democracy. It actually happens in states when they vote. That's how it should be. That's awesome. That's great. You got a democracy in your own state. But your state in New York, I say yours because it's mine, my state in New York shouldn't be able to decide a majority of this country and what we can and can't do. Now, many that are Democrats in this state believe they should be able to because they're the enlightened ones. You know, we eat granola. We're smarter than you. That's why, you know. It's so yummy. It kind of is, actually, but I don't eat it much, right? High in fat. All said, New York's the same thing. We're like, we got sewer rats. We eat them. We just take a bite right out of them and they'll tell you, "Bach you, you know." So they want to be able to decide also. And that's not how it works. So this game's falling apart for them in a lot of ways, and that's the democracy we're hoping to ruin. That there are 50 states, and if we want to count territories, which would be pretty cool, we've got some extra friends, but they're not necessarily part of the acquired thing. We have 50 states. Each state's got the same voice when it comes to the Senate. Each state's got a slightly altered voice depending on population in the House, which is where you get that closest to democracy that you're ever going to see is in one small sub-branch of a branch of the government. And that one branch shouldn't be able to control everything else. That's why you have the Senate. They can put through crazy things, but you still got two dudes equal across the board, so you don't have two states that can change everything. We're winning this war, but we also have to understand what a lot of the word games that they're going to play against the people that we're trying to help, right? They're trying to teach them to spit in our face while we're trying to offer them assistance. And that's really unhelpful, but we've got to learn that that's going to come. So, Doc, put a shield on, do what you got to do, right? Wear a mask. I don't know. Stupid. None of us wear masks, but whatever. It's an analogy. I was just run with it. President Trump has repeatedly said he would not sign a national abortion ban. This is true. This came out from Trump's war room because they keep saying he is saying that he's going to ban abortion. So they keep saying things that Trump's actually come out and said, I am not going to do that. It's not interested. And they're like, well, we know you say that, but you lie. And it's like, but you guys continue to lie and we catch you in lies. It's like, that's different. Your lies or your facts are lies, right? Like it's malinformation. They also said, you just made up the detention camps and conveniently left out the word illegal, right? President Trump also shared, President Trump has nothing to do with Project 2025, which, by the way, I saw someone post and they said it was being sundowned. And I don't know if it was because they're not from here as a native speaker. Sunsetting is usually what you talk about with software, though I didn't go digging to see if they're actually sunsetting Project 2025. And I don't know if they meant something else by sundowned. Whatever. Maybe I'm stupid. One of you guys can inform me if that's... No, down's actually a separate thing. All right. I don't know about it. No amount of lying is going to fix the problems that Joe Biden keeps doing, but they're going to keep trying to lie. Donald Trump Jr. put this out. I got the price of insulin for seniors brought way down, not Biden. He just inherited this and many other things and then always tries to take credit for it. He's done nothing but destroy our country. We know this. Claudia Tenney calls for DOJ investigation of Hunter Biden laptop signers for election interference. There's a chick from New York, Republican rep from New York. Says, let's look into this because I actually think this was election interference, which is illegal. Whether they're contractors or not, they would be, at risk of messing with an election, which they did. If more people knew, and there are huge polls that came out after the elections, if more people knew that the Hunter Biden laptop was true, they would have voted differently. That affected the outcome, which also should give you a taste of how much cheating they do, but how much other influences they have to use to actually make this work. So I think their numbers, that's why they're trying to bring in millions of people or millions of extra voters, from across the southern border and the northern border to some degree. Oh, then just fly them in too. I forgot about that. Probably boat them in, right? Like all that stuff. Federal judge delivers blow to the RNC protesters. The protesters were hoping to be able to march past the security fence and actually be able to get right up into the RNC convention that's redundant, the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. The judge came back and said, no, you can't march through the hard security barrier. The ruling is a blow to several groups who sued for the ability to march closer to the venue hosting most of the nomination in the convention. So they don't get to disturb it. And the fun thing is they're generally reasonably easy to figure out who they are. And if you don't do some of the telltale things that you always do, well, then we're going to totally know who you are because we'll see you again. Unless you change clothes somehow. I guess I'll give you that. Who knows? Elon Musk posted this in response to End Wokeness. Argentina hand-counted 99.9% of their 27 million paper ballots in less than 6 hours. There's no reason it can't be done here. Elon Musk responded, this should be a requirement. If Argentina can do it, so can America. Good on Elon Musk. I don't know if he's got... I think he does his own posts, man. Like, I can't imagine him letting other people post for him. Or if they did, he's like, you got to let me approve the post and then I'll put them out or something or whatever. This is an interesting little finding. So McKinsey and Company, Mayor Eric Adams. You know the trash can thing we just made fun of yesterday, and I didn't realize how astute I was at making fun of him. I'm sure that's why it came out, though, because this was coming. But what he did is he paid $4 million to McKinsey and Company to do a study on whether or not trash cans work. Yeah, Eric Adams, $4 million to McKinsey and Company. Decide whether or not trash cans work. Now, my big question is, what's McKinsey really tied into? Who is he exactly? Or the company part? Who's that? Is there someone else also on there? But these are the ones we need to be looking at. Because they got $4 million to do something stupid because of something else. What's that something else? We need to find out. We need to stop trusting these bastards. That's for damn sure. All right, DS, shameful. Deep state, shameful stuff. The Biden administration has been releasing children to traffickers in forced labor. The media has covered for him. In 2021, when a new Biden administration was struggling to cope with the sudden influx of unaccompanied migrant children at the U.S.-Mexico border, the government repeatedly overrode the concerns of lower-level workers who warned about placing them in certain households. Documents and interviews have showed this. Quote, it does not appear safe for the minor to be released to a home environment that was not fully assessed, end quote. One of the workers wrote this. A few days later, an official dismissed the recommendation to reject the proposed guardian, according to the internal government memos. At another facility in Pomona, California, about 30 miles east of Los Angeles, more than 100 children that summer were sent to a temporary guardians who were issued denials earlier in the process by case coordinators, according to review of internal government's data that tracks unaccompanied children. Emails and other communications and interviews with caseworkers have shown this as well. About 24 more denials were overturned because of clerical errors or issues such as missing fingerprints that were resolved, records show. But many of the others were approved with scant details explaining why. Some of those home addresses were tied to histories of criminal activity or other behavior that was indicated or had that indicated the possibility the children would be put to work. Interviews and records show. It's kind of repetitive, but I think they feel like they've got to because we have a 3-second attention span. If we don't keep repeating that, these are what interviews and records show over and over. So we were literally putting kids into worker camps and losing track of them or whatever. It's child trafficking. Chicago had over 100 shootings apparently over the July 4th weekend. Holy crap. Holy crap. And I'm sure it's just in those comfort neighborhoods, but wow. But Mayor Johnson literally blames it on Nixon. What the hell? Let's play it.
So we cut off the pipeline of boys between the ages of 10 and 19 being either victims or the perpetrators. So, yeah, it is personal. Black death has been unfortunately accepted in this country for a very long time. We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes, and people mocked President Johnson. And we ended up with Richard Nixon. I'm going to work hard every day to transform this city. That's what it takes to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago, and I need everybody to step up.
But, man, I hope he actually gave ideas and examples of what he plans on doing. Because obviously there's been a lot of time to change it. Chicago's been a blue city for a very, 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 very long time. So I'm just wondering when y'all are going to get around to making it better. Because it's been getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse ever since the Democrats took over. But it's always, someone else's fault. Never their fault. No. Death of a black man pinned to the ground by Milwaukee hotel security draws George Floyd comparisons. They're trying to make news out of this and hype this up. This happened days ago, and it's the only reason why I actually shared it, because I was actually going to ignore it. But it's kind of crazy. It's only security guards. I don't mean that to sound bad, but the cops are one thing that people, cops killing people just in general, but certainly black people, very poo-pooed on. Security? Well, that's like a private thing. Go ahead and sue the company that hired them. Hello? That's not the cops' fault, right? That's just some dudes. But they, ended this guy's life. He was apparently fighting with the security when they were trying to escort him out. Whatever the case is, you're not allowed to do whatever the heck you want. That's just kind of generally how it is, especially when it comes to businesses. They have a right to kick you off the property. Elon Musk posted this: when combined with mail-in ballots, the system is designed to make it impossible to prove fraud. Mail-in and drop-box ballots should not be allowed, as cameras on the in-person voting stations would at least prevent large-scale fraud by counting how many people showed up versus ballots cast. And he's right. We can't just take it the way they want us to take it. We have to make noise. We have to make ripples. Trump truthed this out. Republicans must pass the SAVE Act or go home and cry yourself to sleep. Non-citizen illegal migrants are getting the right to vote, being pushed by crooked Democrat politicians who are not being stopped by an equally dishonest Justice Department. Our whole voting system is under siege. Harmeet and David, go to court and get this stopped now. The Dems can't win on their policies. The only way they can win is to cheat. They do it at every level of government, and they do it well. That's how they get an incapacitated moron like Joe Biden elected. Get tough, RNC, Michael W., Speaker Johnson, and all state and local Republican politicians. The Justice Department is corrupt and won't do a thing to help. They have no shame. All I can say is that if I'm elected president, we will pursue election fraudsters at levels near never seen, and they will be sent to prison for long periods of time. We already know who you are. Don't do it, Zuckerbucks. Be careful. Calling them out. Donald Smith talking about the Jack Smith isn't a special counsel by law. So there is some good and bad news, I guess, for special counsel Jack Smith right now. Good news is that he may not have to confront the thorny issues stemming from the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision. The bad news is that the good news may put him out of a job. The result would follow from a finding either that there is no legal authority for the creation of the office of special counsel, that he wasn't appointed in compliance with the Constitution, or some combination of the two. The Constitution's appointments clause limits how executive offices can be created and how they may be filled. Before the Revolution, the king could both create and fill offices. The Constitution eliminated that power by giving Congress the authority to create offices or to authorize their creation in specific circumstances, and requiring the advice and consent of the Senate before the president could fill certain offices. It empowers the president to nominate and appoint, quote, officers of the United States, quote, not specifically provided for the Constitution, only with the advice and consent of the Senate, and only to offices which shall be established by law. The Appointments Clause does not allow for the appointment of officers by the president, a court, or the head of a department, such as the Attorney General, but again, only when such appointment is permitted by law. So they've got to follow the laws. This is another one of those things that's going to be demonstrated as them skirting the law, which the Biden administration is super normal at doing, right? Like they do it all the time. So we've got this apparently Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg and Juan Merchan violated the Constitution and legal rights of President Trump. Sorry, I'm trying to read this off the bottom, but this is the part that's kind of important. This interim staff report explains the several ways in which Bragg's prosecution of President Trump suffers from severe legal and procedural defects. These infirmities include, but are not limited to, 1. Bragg's unconstitutional and unprecedented Russian nesting doll theory of criminal liability, in which the injury never had to reach unanimity beyond a reasonable doubt as to each element of the criminal offenses. Bragg's usurpation of the federal government's exclusive authority to prosecute alleged violations of federal campaign finance laws, and the Biden-Harris administration's refusal to intercede to protect federal interests. And third, Judge Merchan's egregious legal rulings before and during the trial that all cut against President Trump's rights, including Judge Merchan's failure to recuse himself for manifest political bias against President Trump, the unconstitutional gag order he imposed on President Trump during the trial, Judge Merchan's admission of plainly inadmissible, irrelevant, and unfairly prejudicial testimony against President Trump, I think the Stormy Daniels stuff specifically, but others, Judge Merchan's refusal to permit former Federal Election Commission Chairman Bradley Smith to testify as the meaning and complexities of the Federal Elections Campaign Act. Now, many would say, who is this guy you refer to? Oh, it's this guy right here.
It's the only candidate.
Not right there, but right here.
We have two great guests. Bradley Smith, how are you, my friend? You were commissioner at the Federal Election Commission starting in 2000. You were chairman. You graduated from Harvard Law School, and you were confirmed to the FEC in 2000. Prior to your appointment, you were a professor of law at Capital University in Columbus, Ohio. You taught election law. Your writings on campaign finance, other election issues, they've appeared in the Yale Law Journal, the University of Pennsylvania Law Review, Georgetown Law Journal, the Harvard Journal of Legislation, Cornell Journal of Law and Public Policy, and other academic journals. You have founded the Institute for Free Speech, and you're a professor again at Capital University.
The district didn't bring it. The FEC didn't bring it. This judge didn't even let us use the #1 election attorney. He's making the rules. He doesn't know anything about elections. He doesn't know anything about voting and vote counts. He doesn't know anything about this stuff. That's not his profession. We had the leading election expert in the country, Brad Smith, ready to testify. Wouldn't let him do it.
Yeah. So again, so many things that he did that railroaded them, and Brad Smith just not letting him testify because it would have destroyed the case. There's no way the jury would have found it even close to possible. So now Schumer's going to try again to do something illegal. He's going to move to deny Trump immunity for election challenges after the SCOTUS ruling. But what he's failing to understand from the SCOTUS ruling is that this third branch of government does not have the right to take away the right of another branch of government. They just don't. There's some inalienable rights and some rights. I don't know what you call it when it's, for the branch only, but we get inalienable ones. They keep trying to take those from us, but trying to take the executive branch's rights. This is 3 equal branches of government. You can't do that. It's like they keep trying to get in and force the Supreme Court to do what they want. You can't do that, Chuck Schumer, you douchehole. You get it. Figure it out. Wake up. I don't know. Have someone smack you in the face to wake your ass up. I don't know what you need to do. But you have no friggin' clue how this Constitution works. It seems we are, yes, destroying democracy. And we're going to continue to destroy your version of bastardizing the Constitution. Your days are done. We are a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. Suck it. George Papadopoulos put this out. I testified under oath on a committee John Ratcliffe was heading on the weaponization of government against the Trump campaign. He is fully aware of the CIA and Five Eyes, Australia-UK operation, against Trump and his team. He was instrumental in rolling out certain declassified information while Director of National Intelligence and knows where the bodies are buried. He would make an excellent AG pick for Trump. And he talked about how he'd probably make him the Attorney General. Can you imagine the guy that knows the secrets being the Attorney General? It's like, what are you telling me, CIA? No, that's not true. Sorry. You need to come in. Sorry. I know that's crap. So we'll see how these things continue to play out, but they will continue to play out. I want to remind you guys of really my favorite new advertiser. One, because it takes care of our pets. They have this versicular... This is the Coriolis versicolor. That's what it's called. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Whatever. I'll figure that out eventually. But it's actually got over 400 studies. They cite them here. There's reviews, research. There's over 400 studies that talk about how giving your pet this particular mushroom actually has a huge number of benefits to their health. Not just to keep them healthy. No, literally it reverses some cancers and many many other ailments that dogs have. You'll see healthier coats. You'll see better just energy in general. So dogs, cats, they have foods for both. But on top of that, they've also got ingredients that are not chemicals and all these crazy additives that a lot of us actually have in our foods. Think about the toys you let your dog play with or your cat play with, right? How many of those were made in China? Think about all the crazy chemicals they use in all of their products. They don't care about lead and stuff like that. That's part of it as well. These guys have the toys for animals. They've got the food for animals. Now, in the case of dogs, and there's a whole bunch of testimonials on this site as well, the mush puppies are a big thing. They're like a treat you give the dog. They're not very expensive, 16 to 20 bucks. Like, it's not real expensive considering you know you're giving them actually good quality food. You're also giving them that mushroom that helps with other things. So it's one of those things where it's like they get their medicine every day, but they don't realize they're getting their medicine. And frankly, I take it as a human, by the way. And it's not like medicine, it's like a vitamin for me. And that's what I take it for. It's a way to help. I smoked for 21 years. I'm like, who knows what's inside of me, right? I'm going to take this. I know it's going to help. I know it is. I've got a friend that actually went through all of this stuff. Had a giant tumor in his neck. Took this hardcore. Talked about it. He was on my show. Had him on my show. So you got the mush puppies. You got Mojos, right? They got this, I don't know what the super sauce is. I assume you can add that. Oh, it's just like some sort of liquid stuff. Maybe put that on the dry food. I actually never even know this. Little super sauce. So it's got some stuff in there. And there's a lot of ways you can just add it maybe to you're already getting your dog really good dog food. Well, then stick one of these super sauce pouches on top of their food. They're going to just eat it down because they're going to see it like gravy, right? That's another way. They're not that expensive either, right? So you just put some of that super sauce on your already really good healthy food. Fantastic. Let's give them the Coriolis versicolor. Let's make sure they're going to have healthier experiences, healthier limbs, healthier bones, healthier everything. But they've got your food covered. They've even got canned food when it comes to the dogs. They've got biscuits. They've actually got mints that have that, mint that help with your dog's breath. Another way to get them the same ingredients that'll benefit you as the person that they keep trying to kiss. And you're like, Jesus, right. Oh, my Lord. Gingivitis. What's going on with you, doggy? Plus, they've got toys for your dogs especially, but cats too, that are made from natural animals. These specifically antler sticks, for example. They actually, when they chew them up, they got like a calcium and whatever. They got all these minerals in them. It's so good for them, as opposed to the toys we typically give them. It might seem weird. You're like, I'm giving them like an antler. Yeah, but like that's weird. It's like only because China makes all the toys that you're used to. That's weird. See, I got cat food. They got the super sauce for the cats. They got Mojos for cats. They got dry food for cats. So you got a lot of choices with your cat food. Now, again, I don't know how you spoiled your cat. I don't have a cat. I just know they're annoyingly spoiled sometimes, right? It's got to be the can, and they know that noise the second you pop the top. So there might be some other ways to work it in, but they've got a little nipster play thing for them even. They got toys that work for cats. It's also going to help. They got some dry food or the treats. Maybe that's the way you got to go. But you've got options. And, of course, they have a couple things for horses. I love these guys. That's why I'm talking so much about them. danradiostyle.petclub247.com. danradiostyle.petclub247.com. I think if you do the auto shipping where they do that, I think you actually save some extra money on top of everything else. A lot of great things. And there is actually a way to become more than just a customer. And how that exactly works, contact us. You might want to go for and just tell them that I sent you. But you actually, I think you have to pay like $15 a month. So if you know with that 10% discount that you're going to buy more than $150 a month, or maybe you got a couple friends that are, paying you some cash under the table to hand them some dog food, you might want to do that because you get a 10% discount on top of that. There's a web service fee or whatever that's like $15. There's a way to do it. Make sure you give credit to my account, of course, please. But all said, these are the great products. And again, they have them for humans. They've got coffee. They've got all sorts of stuff. Got a lot of really, really great products. danradiostyle.petclub247.com. Literally, I'm taking it myself. And then just the one right now. I didn't want to try a bunch of different crap at one time and be like, oh, I don't know. Dude, I've been sleeping better. I'm remembering my dreams more. This stuff's awesome. And I'm not noticing anything else. Like, it's been really awesome. So I don't know. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep enjoying this. I've gotten through one bottle so far. I'm on to my second. I'm actually noticing improvements, right? I don't know. I don't have any health issues, so I'm not like paying attention to that per se. I don't have any like that kind of stuff to guess it on, but everything, like I said, the sleeping, the dreams, these are some of the things that are going to happen. Go to danradiostyle.petclub247.com. Seriously, incredible products, especially for your animals. You want them to live as long as possible. At least I did. That was the hardest thing I ever did, was putting down my beautiful Brendel. She was awesome. Awesome dog. All right, super long, whatever. Sorry, guys. President Vladimir Zelensky, he arrived in Washington, D.C. There's a NATO summit going on today. A whole bunch of people have come in making a big damn deal about it. They obviously had to have the NATO summit here because there's no way Biden could actually go anywhere because he can't handle that kind of stuff. So, yeah, Zelensky's here. There was discussions that Biden's probably going to offer him more money. So whatever, here we go. Dem Senator turned lobbyist Tom Daschle. He pressed Biden admin to support infrastructure projects in Hamas-controlled Gaza. Many emails show. He represented South Dakota in the upper chamber for 18 years. Led the Senate caucus from 95 to 2005. He wrote the Secretary of State Antony Blinken's chief of staff in October 2021 to ask for Blinken's help transferring goods into Gaza. His emails was subsequently tasked to the State Department's Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs. What I think this really is kind of giving us a taste of is not so much that they were helping them in Gaza, but that they helped specifically get things into Gaza, which was likely weapons. Likely. Don't know for sure, but likely something more nefarious than just like food. I'm sure there's a lot of ways they could have got that in. I don't think that's how that was playing out. Israel says it killed another Hezbollah leader in Lebanon. I guess the Israeli Defense Forces aircraft struck and eliminated the Hezbollah terrorist Mustafa Hassan Salman in the area of, Klale? I don't even know how to say that. That was what the military is telling us. So they seem to have gotten another Hezbollah leader. And this was in Lebanon. They attacked on their soil. Zelensky apparently has made a deal with Poland. Poland said they're going to shoot down Russian missiles that are in Ukrainian airspace from Polish soil. How this goes, we don't know. I don't know. Like, they're shooting down stuff that's in Ukraine, but they're directly involving their borders. Like, there's international laws, and like, you're opening yourself up to potential attacks. Or if you're using something to do something from your land that is directly involved in the war, do I now have the right to attack that installation that just launched those? Questions all over the place. We'll see how that plays out. The United States called Monday on Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to emphasize Ukraine's territorial integrity as he met. This is us trying to, again, get the world to stop putting an end to this war and make sure you keep the war going. And how we keep the war going is by insisting that Russia gives everything back that they took because of how this has played out and how they shelled their own people that just didn't really want to be Ukrainian and, spoke Russian. And so they started attacking them thanks to the help of the U.S. So now we're trying to tell everybody how they should behave in this case. And these people are all putting together a peace plan, unquestioned. We got leaked Russian documents revealing deep concern over the Chinese aggression. There's a report. Max Seddon and Chris Cook of the Financial Times reveal how Russia might use nuclear weapons to roll back Chinese aggression. Story built off of leaked secret documents confirms Russia's deep and long-standing concerns that a revitalized China might try to annex Russia's eastern territories. So Russia and China have never really been friends. They've got a border, and they've had problems there before in the past. They don't trust each other, and China wants to expand their border into Russian territories. Russia obviously doesn't want to give up any of its land, and China shouldn't be able to just feel like it can conquest. So how this plays out, we don't know, but there is some... I know we're pushing these two tigers together and we're forcing them to figure out how to get along, which might be a big, good thing for them because they're going to have to learn how to get along. We all have to learn how to play together, self-included. It's going to be a multipolar world. I think 3 poles at least. So Chinese President Xi, he just said that, hey, Ukraine, this should end peacefully. Let's get the peace project going. So he's coming out, and Hungary's talking to everybody. In fact, Orban even came to the U.S. Peace Mission 4.0. He's now here in Washington for this NATO summit. He is trying to establish peace in Ukraine. Biden can't have that. The Biden crime family, the deep state, can't have that. But it's happening. And maybe Trump's the one that solidifies it. Maybe not. But Biden's going to continue to try to keep this war going, and I don't see how that actually helps him in any way, shape, or form. Zelensky says Hungarian ruler cannot end this war. There's no way. You don't have the power. Well, we'll see. Ukraine, maybe you guys don't stop attacking Russia, in which case it'll then be your fault when Russia retaliates. But if we get back to something more like that, Ukraine's going to have a very hard time justifying the crazy stuff they want to do. So, again, there's easy ways to play out some of this. Apparently an Antifa leader, and he is on the French security watch list. He's been accused of defending the October 7th Hamas terror attacks, and he violently was involved and violently attacking a right-wing activist. This guy was actually who was voted into the French parliament. This is who won. The guy, Raphael Arnault. Probably don't pronounce the T. It's probably silent or some weird thing. So, French hard-ring leader, Marine Le Pen. This is the one that was actually looking like she was going to win until Macron did the crazy stuff he did. Now they're going after this individual for illegal financing days before the national rally. Yeah, they're going after her now. Apparently, Tony Blair calls on the new UK leader to increase tax by $64 billion. That's going to help wake up the rest of England, to my good friends over there across the pond. So hopefully we can get you guys to ripple properly in your own unemotioned way and help these other unemotioned, upset people understand that, no, we really don't have to live like this, guys. I know you guys have a different sort of government, so figure out how to do that within your own rules. EU reportedly to issue final warning to X under censorship law. Risks 6% revenue. So the EU is deciding, because they're an unelected body, by the way, that they should be able to go after X's money because they want to censor X. And if X doesn't do what they say, then they should get 6% cut of X's world revenue. What the fuck are you talking about? Parliament? Are you shitting me, EU? No, you don't. If anything, since you only have some form of control over the EU, you would only get a piece of that at best. But there's no way you get anything for America or anything else. F you. But this is the deep state move. This is a major deal. And we'll see how this plays out. They're planning on making this ruling before they go on their vacation. Whatever, you doucheholes. EU. F off. F off, EU. It's an American company. You could suck it. I don't care if they turn it off for Europe. I'll feel bad for you guys, but whatever. If that's what they want to do, then they can answer to you all being pissed off. But that's going to be your fight. All of us are on our own messes right now. We all made this bed. We got to either lie in it or fix it. Right? It's like a dog that walks in a circle 45 times before it finally lays down in the bed. It's like, what does that do, dog? What are you doing? Dog's like, shut up, okay? Don't make fun of me. I just had to get the right angle. I just had to get it just right. Anti-Trump prosecutor is listed now Biden's White House chief of staff as a reference for a job. So this has to do with the fact that when Matthew Colangelo went and worked with Letitz James, he actually listed Merrick Garland as, like, hey, he was my last boss. So yeah, if you want to talk to anybody about how I am, there's a reference, right? Jim Jordan's going to grill executives accused of colluding to silence conservatives in the Judiciary Committee hot seat. This is going on. Some post-Independence Day fireworks, I guess. We got a couple companies and two individuals. It's Unilever USA and Group M, two guys that have been involved with censoring a lot of conservative companies in the advertising world. So he's going to have a little interview, ticky-tacky with them and see how they feel about things. House Judiciary GOP calls on appellate courts to reverse the verdict in New York versus Trump in a staff report. Whether or not they can do that, we'll see, but a lot of noise is being made in that regard. Also, Navy sailor was tried to access Biden's medical records multiple times. This Navy sailor, I don't know if this is a deep state person trying to get him to do this, because a good guy wouldn't have him do this. A bad guy would. And there's probably a lot of people who are like, dude, we should be able to see those, right? That's totally what they should do. No, because it puts this guy at risk. First off, he's the commander-in-chief, quote unquote. So you're not allowed to just look into those. I don't care what rights you got. Trust me, your rights don't go far enough up to be able to see those. And so if you try, that shows up as a flag. Like, just to think that you can search something discreetly is absurd. And they do put in keywords that are something they would worry about. So, yeah, they're trying to get this dude fired, which they got him busted. He tried this multiple times and never succeeded, but kept trying. Not smart, obviously. 16 attorneys general ask Supreme Court to hear parental rights case. This is an interesting way to try to get this in front of the Supreme Court, that parents should have the rights over their children. And this is a big thing if you think about what the Social Security number means for all you capital letters people out there, and you should know what I mean by that. But this is a very interesting case in that, do parents actually have rights over their kids, whether the kids want to do this transgender stuff or not? We're not trying to get into those waters per se, just that, do any states have the right to say, no, your parents don't matter? And so I think that's a curious one, a very curious one. I want to see where that goes, and we will find out in time. House Freedom Caucus kicked out Rep. Warren Davidson over his endorsement of somebody that Trump wasn't endorsing. He specifically endorsed someone he should have. He was a Freedom Caucus individual. Again, look to see what people's actions are, not what their titles are. This is another example. I think they were right to kick his ass out. I don't know a lot about him. He could have been a good guy all the time, but he failed this test. That's it. You're out. That's fine. Hopefully you're still a Republican. We'll see. But you're not a Freedom Caucus member. You're not in that caucus. You don't belong. You don't deserve to be there. You need to support who we support. I'm not going to play this 2 minutes. I'm already super long. But the bottom line is they told you things that are simply not accurate. This is a dude, and he's talking about Fulton County and all the election stuff and the missing ballots and a lot of things. He gets into it. They don't play it all. They don't give any real solid facts. He just lays out the fact that he disagreed with these three things, and he lays it out. I don't think we get to see until later, hopefully, what comes from that. And finally, Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections Chair resigns after reappointment. I don't know if this is related or not, probably, because this is the person that actually had the job prior. Then I think she stepped down. They let her go, whatever. They replaced her. She stepped down. They replaced her with an individual that is now retiring or leaving after a reasonably short period of time. I think they've been in since 2021, which is also interesting. Like, they finished their task, but they're out. She's going back in, and then now, I think we're going to try to get rid of her too, or she's stepping down July 25th. So I don't know. Some stuff's going to be coming out. I think they're getting some people out of the way. We'll see how it plays out, because I think Fulton County did not. They left out a bunch of stuff, and when Trump went to the governor and the Secretary of State, Raffensperger, tried to get him to help, and he didn't, and they tried to impeach him, or did impeach him for that. Yeah, he had every right to do that. That's going to be vindicated. That's why they're fighting Georgia so hard. It's not just because he won the state, but it's because of all the shenanigans that have come from Georgia. New York's the only other place that has done the shenanigans as hard. Lots happening, guys. Keep pushing hard. Keep fighting the fight. We'll get there. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.